realize you can't see me over the podium. But that's the long and the short of it. What can I say? But a very warm welcome to you to the 2015 STARTALK Spring Conference. It's wonderful to be together again. I'd like to begin by recognizing our government representatives. I think most are all of you guys here, or are others scattered around? Okay, right here. Oh, Laura. Laura Murray's in the back, making sure I behave myself. But our government folks are the people who make this program possible and whose support and guidance has been essential to the success of this program. And I want to recognize our team leaders. Raise your hands, please. The team leaders are the brain trust of STARTALK. They help our programs integrate sound language, language education principles into our teacher training and our student programs. And let's thank our STARTALK program staff who implement our programs with such care and dedication. As many of you know, I will be retiring this summer from the National Foreign Language Center. I'm not dying. I'm not going away. People who've known me for years know that I continue to bother people for long after I have an official relationship with them. So I do hope to be involved in a variety of ways and expect to be. But it's especially important now for me to tell you how very proud I am of what this amazing group of language educators has accomplished since our startup in 2007. The number of programs and participants has grown significantly, but I'm especially grateful for the efforts of so many language educators in developing the excellent training programs for our STARTALK teachers and providing the care and the careful and detailed planning and implementation that has strengthened our student programs year after year. We couldn't have imagined in 2007 how much this group would accomplish in a few short years, and we're appreciative of all you do to support STARTALK and to assure its success. And now I'll turn the podium over to the one and only Betsy Hart.
Good morning. This is a tall podium, isn't it? Wow. I just want to join Catherine in extending a welcome to you. It is wonderful to have you here and see so many familiar faces again, and a special welcome to our new programs who are here joining the STARTALK family for the very first time. We have planned what we believe is a very exciting conference, and I want you to know, many of you are here. This is our 16th conference, and so it's hard to plan exciting conferences when we're up in these high numbers, but we work so hard during the year to make it happen, and I hope that you do find things we are offering, the information we are providing, and the sessions we have planned that will continue to enable you to grow as you do your work in STARTALK programs and other aspects of your work life. I want to remind you also that we have a networking reception this afternoon, right after the afternoon plenary. During the plenary, you'll be hearing more from and about the STARTALK staff that you will be working with this summer. But after that, we have a networking reception planned, starting at 5:30. And I heard the sigh of disappointment when Catherine announced her retirement plans for the first time. You can imagine how we feel. So we have planned a special celebration during the networking reception tonight to honor Catherine and her very many accomplishments in STARTALK and other world language programs. So please do plan on joining us for that. I'm getting ready to hand the podium over now to Laura Terrill, who will deliver the opening plenary. But I just want to remind you all, the veteran programs have heard this before, it is the job of the STARTALK Central staff to support you. Do not hesitate to pick up the phone, call us, go to your computer, send us an email. We are here to ensure the success of your programs because it is due to your efforts and the success of the individual programs that the STARTALK program as a whole is so successful. And believe me, we are so successful. So please do remember that as you go through the conference and you'll be meeting the various STARTALK staff members, that we are here to support you. So I hope you enjoy the conference we have planned, and we'll see you for the afternoon plenary at the end of the day. So, Laura?
Well, a third good morning to everyone. So it is a pleasure to be here. I think I would rather be sitting with all of you. But that's okay, because we're going to have a good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you. It is a delight to be in a room. I say this to myself every time. I love conferences because that's where you meet all of the people that think like you do. They give up weekends, they work tirelessly, but more importantly, this is really our chance to make new connections, meet new people, listen, learn, and really plan for learning in our student and teacher programs. So I want to model effective teaching practices. So on your table, you have a lesson plan. Each lesson plan has 2 Post-it notes on it. I'm taking a risk, obviously. I met with the team leaders all day yesterday, and I did challenge them, and I told them that we all like to improve things. So you are welcome to criticize my lesson plan at any time other than this morning. Find me anywhere and give me feedback. But the purpose of the lesson plan, stage 1 and stage 2, as we all know, is to lay out the goals for this morning, which are 2 simple ones. My charge is to introduce new product to you, and also to maybe get you a little wound up about this summer, having a little more energy, especially for those of you that are here on different time zones, perhaps. But I believe firmly in the need for participants to set their own learning goals. And that's why there are 2 Post-it notes on. So if you will now find a pen or a pencil. I know this is hard to do in the age of technology, but you can do it. And I want you to quietly, notice that word? Quietly think, that's a quiet activity, about this question. As you arrived at the conference thinking about writing your templates, what is that one aspect of your program that you know you are focusing on this year? And I know if you're a new program, that's a tough question. But just try to narrow your focus to that one piece. What aspect are you really thinking about as you start this conference? You are such a good audience. Jot that down. You will only be allowed to talk to your partner in a minute if they see that something is written on your Post-it note. I taught high school for many years. You must hold people individually accountable. The second question I want you to think about is, what is your program's focus for professional development? Is that a teacher program? You're really going to work with those teachers that you're training this year, that you're developing this summer. What is it that you hope they leave your program with above and beyond everything else? And in that student program, what is that big takeaway that you want your instructors in your student program to have? What is that piece you're working on in professional development? Now, the other reason for asking people to set their own goals, which you just did in brief on your Post-it notes, is that I am no longer responsible for them. When you set a personal learning goal, you are responsible for achieving that goal. So throughout the conference, you want to remind yourself, everybody you see, everybody you talk to, keep asking them, well, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? And as you listen to me explain new product that we think will make your lives easier, see if you hear about a new product that would connect to one of your goals, and then strive to get to one of those workshops or sessions to learn more about it. But let's see if you can find a kindred spirit at your table. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to talk over your goals, say good morning to each other again, and when you hear me start clapping, we'll start up again. Okay, hold those thoughts. Remember, it worked so well earlier. Oh, you guys are so good. Thank you. Well, I just want to give you some really good news. The answer to all your solutions is out there. It is the Rosetta Stone. I do not want to disparage this product. I think like any other language learning product, it has its success. I do want to point out to you that under truth in advertising laws, they are now required, like Weight Watchers, to put a very small caption on their commercials that says, results not typical. However, they do have a tagline in there that I think we all believe in, and they talk about live life fluently. And so I think our challenge as we move forward is to adopt this attitude and to bring this enthusiasm of this product. Of course it would work if we did the Rosetta Stone or the Berlitz of old for 30 minutes a day for the rest of our lives. But what we really have to do is inspire our teachers, inspire our students to want to engage in language learning activities, be it what we can offer them in the summer or what they can find online for themselves, so that they will embrace a continual improvement and continual growth, so that they can live life fluently. To do that takes courage. And I love Parker Palmer's book. If you have not read it, The Courage to Teach, it is a very thought-provoking book. And I'm going to use that as an organizational framework as I introduce new product today. But I identify so much with this statement today, because here I am, well beyond 30 years in my career, and trust me, I am standing before you today feeling like a rank amateur, because so many of you in this audience could be up here doing what I'm doing so much more effectively. But that's the way we should feel when our summer programs start. We should have that sense of, oh my gosh, someone is trusting their children to us. They're sending them out the door to us. They're trusting us to provoke their thinking about language learning, language teaching for the rest of their lives and ours. And he frames 4 questions. And so as I discuss each question just briefly, I'm also going to fill in under each question the products that I believe we've created this year that might address. And I want to remind you that you've written what your professional focus is for this year, your growth focus, so you have an interpretive task for the next 40 minutes. You are listening for product that might address your professional development needs in your program. So he starts with, what do I teach? I want to back up, and I want to use Ruby Payne's, A Framework for Understanding Poverty, her definition of teaching, because I think her definition of teaching is excellent and frightening. It is that teaching is what occurs outside the head. When I first read that as a high school teacher at that time, I realized that this was absolutely right on. Because every time a student had come to me and said, we didn't do that yesterday, I knew that she was right. Teaching occurred outside of the head. And so we have to make sure that when we choose what we're teaching, that it is so impactful that it gets in their head, that we do it in ways that get in their head. Donna Clementi and I recently authored the Keys for Planning for Learning, so a little self-promotion is always good, right? But this is the image. We worked really hard on this at 2 in the morning one night in a hotel, and then had somebody else make it look a whole lot better, to say that we wanted something to anchor our thinking around what do we teach, that definitively took us beyond lists of vocabulary, lists of grammar, lists of cultural topics, and said, we use our standards to anchor whatever we teach. We float our instruction on an image of the world, because from day one, teachers and students have to be thinking beyond the walls of their classroom. We put the modes there because it's all about what you can do with your language in either the interpersonal, interpretive, or presentational mode. It is not about knowledge for knowledge's sake. And then we said no matter what you teach, you must prepare your students to know themselves better, their communities better, the world better, and in so doing, you have a prayer of hitting interculturality. And that's the huge challenge of those thematic, standards-based units that we keep asking and talking about as we dialogue with our colleagues. Well, what have we prepared for you that we think you can access that would give you some of this what do I teach? Hindi and Urdu teachers this year worked very, very hard to take some of the model curricula that were written 2 years ago and adapt them for Hindi and Urdu. So now Hindi and Urdu programs across the country can go online to STARTALK and find units that have vocabulary that's appropriate to that unit, goals that are appropriate to that unit, assessments that are appropriate to that unit, authentic materials that are appropriate to that unit, so that they don't have to start from scratch. And we would love to see teacher training programs get model curricula adapted into other languages. Rather than saying write your own unit from scratch, you brand new teacher that barely knows what you're doing, adaptation might be more successful. So we would like to expand the number of model curricula that are language specific. Concordia Language Villages took on an infrastructure project to develop model curricula around specific units, apart from the STARTALK units, and developed 10 units in Chinese and in Russian. They're modular, so they could be used in their entirety, or they could be used as component parts. Each unit, the Chinese one focuses around a trip to China, has 10 specific modules with 30 lesson plans, support video, support materials. One sample unit is on the Chinese medicine, so it could be incorporated as part of an entire unit, or a lift-out component that you could use and put into your unit. So I encourage Chinese programs to look at those. The Russian units focus around a homestay in Russia, and they were designed to take 5 of those modular units and talk about family life, and the other 5 to talk about things families might do together, hence the circus in Russia. So units that you could go and look at, or models that you could pick apart in teacher programs to see, are they good? Could they be improved? Rather than starting from scratch. This was the aspect of what do you teach, but I think Sandra Savignon, along the lines of the interculturality, really shifted the question that Parker Palmer gave us from what do I teach to what can they do with what I teach, encouraging us to make sure that we understand that when we're teaching language, we're really teaching far more than a system that can be explained. We're really teaching and helping our young learners to reach out to that world, to interact with the world. We're reminding them that this is our bridge to peace, to future understanding. What that causes then is a paradigm shift from the question of what do I teach to the question of what are our students learning? What are the teachers in our programs truly learning, absorbing, internalizing, so that when they go back to where they teach on a regular basis, they're better prepared to focus on learning. We have new products also this year to help us with that question of what are students learning. And Ruby Payne said, this is important because learning is what occurs inside the head. Learning sticks with you. So what I always made new teachers do was give a test 48 hours later to see how much learning had really taken place. Because the grade will go down. It will. Our brains are not perfect. But how much it goes down is very revealing on this question of what did I teach and what did they learn. So 2 products to check for learning. First, Greg Duncan shared with us last conference in the fall a new product that is now complete and online called Checking for Learning, posing 8 key questions. You could look at them as an entire package. What do we mean by checking for learning? How do I know what to check? When do I use formative and summative? Or you could say, you know, I really just want to focus on this evidence question. So they're designed to be a package or modular that you can go in and use as you're helping instructors in student programs or teacher programs to examine this whole question around checking for learning. The more we can focus on the learning, the more likely it is that our planning will cause our students to hit that bullseye right in the middle of the emblem that he created to explain this product, that learning will truly occur. CAL, the Center for Applied Linguistics, took a slightly different path into the assessment question. I think that maybe we are the masters of acronyms in our profession. Classroom Language Observation Checklist Kit, so that it could be called CLOCK. Much easier to say CLOCK. But basically, what this product is doing is packaging an idea that assessment occurs as instruction occurs. And so while students are engaged in regular classroom activities, and these are all explained in the product, they can be assessed. So if they're in an inner outer circle or 4 corners, they have given us ideas for assessment. They have given us checklists to use for assessment. They've done the whole product in Chinese for Chinese teachers, ready to go, and in English so that other languages could actually adapt it. They worked on the checklist to be coordinated to the proficiency levels, but are very careful to say in there that this is not meant to be a global assessment of proficiency, but rather just a performance check-in time that would be useful then to give feedback to students, feedback to parents, feedback to the program so that you can see what you might need to focus on. Next question, how do I teach it? Parker Palmer also said we worry too much about the first 2 questions. The what do I teach and the how do I teach are questions we do address day in and day out, but he feels the next 2 questions coming up are possibly more important. So how do I teach? We have to have an emotional hook. I really was not very effective when I walked into my French 3 class many, many years ago. I would never admit I did this recently, and said, let's learn the subjunctive today. There is no emotional connection to the subjunctive, even if we try to contextualize it with a wedding. It just doesn't work. In order to reach the emotion of our students, we have to make sure that what we are asking them to do allows them to acquire the 21st century skills of communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. If we know that we're designing performance tasks that have those embedded in them, that means that they are real world. They have that hope of provoking the emotion in the amygdala in the brain that clouds that learning experience and says, hey, this is fun. I really want to do this. As opposed to those vocabulary drills. Yes, we all learn that way, but so many of our friends did not stick with us. So we really want to push this envelope on this what and how do I teach good quality content. Stella is designed to be the product that you can use for professional development of teachers. Once you have picked that you are working in the planning domain and you are working on criteria 3, then you go to Stella and there are activities. That's the purpose of Stella, and I chose to put the planning one up because a group did work this year to revise and update planning. But they are there for the other domains, and so if you're really tired one night and you're not sure what you want to do with your teachers tomorrow, you have ideas from your STARTALK colleagues on what you can do. So, or if you're doing an activity for the 10th time and you're thinking, go look for something new. That's the idea, that we're trying to make your lives easier so you don't have to keep reinventing it. And by all means, if you have something that you think belongs here, make sure you let STARTALK know so we can embed it in the next version. Advanced Learning worked very hard to create 3 modular products designed around learning targets. How do you design and effectively use learning targets? How do you check for understanding in the classroom? And how do you use effective performance assessment in the classroom? Well, those 3 products each have component parts. First, there's a very short reading, which would be an excellent summary for instructors in student programs, a good intro if you truly have newbies in your teacher programs. There's a video where you see students, teachers, experts talking about this principle in practice. You see a teacher presentation on this concept from the teacher voice rather than that person who's no longer in the classroom, which I think is incredibly effective for people who are still in the classroom to hear from their peers. You have an at a glance, so if you're really short on time, you have a one-pager to really look at and process. You have processing guides for activities and things as you watch the video. So if this happened to be on your Post-it note as one of your topics, by all means go and look at this. STARTALK fought tooth and nail over these 2 principles. We know we don't agree. We have, I don't know, maybe 300, 400 people in the room, all of whom have slightly different definitions of our principles. So we tried to create an at a glance, really talked about it. Some of you were probably in seminar sessions in the fall where we were working on these definitions, where we were talking about what does it look like. So this is a 1-pager, front and back, principles in action that you can use for training purposes with a video done in a program that will capture what it looks like in the classroom. So those will be up on the STARTALK website, and they are being featured in the 2 workshops this morning that focus on those principles. The second one is facilitating a learner-centered classroom. We know that learner-centered looks different from one classroom ages 6 years old up to heritage speakers. Learner-centered has a broad perspective. So we wanted to capture that perspective of learner-centered, both in the at a glance you're looking at and in the video. So you're going to have to listen to me rattle on for a couple more minutes, and then I promise I will let you talk. Occidental also created product. This is the infrastructure grants that we're capturing what they gave us that we could use. They took a slightly different task, a different approach, but what they did was create some useful tools across programs. If you are a teacher program that gives a pre-programmed survey and you were intending to update it, go look at Occidental's. See what ideas you get from it. They've done a reading list, and they tried to focus on readings that were accessible to non-native speakers. So you might want to look at their reading list to see if they have a few things. There are tutorials for technology, how to use it in the classroom, a lot of tools that could be used in many, many programs. And then this year, really for the Arabic-speaking community, although we'll be working this year to get subtitles on these, for the first time we have a curriculum written, getting to know people from the Arabic-speaking world. The lesson plans are written for that curriculum, and then the lessons were filmed in the classroom. So from paper to classroom, useful for training purposes, lessons in action, technology in action, and instructional strategies embedded in those lessons. I watched them myself. Trust me, I do not speak any Arabic, but they could be very useful for what did you understand? What is making this comprehensible input? What is this teacher doing that means that you can understand even the Arabic? One more. Teacher Folio, in its infancy stages, came out of advisory and then task force. And it is, most of our teacher programs work on lesson plan development. All of our student programs work on lesson plan development. So it's the template. It's an annotated template with questions. It's a checklist so we can measure how effective our lesson is. It's tools to design better lessons. So you're looking at that annotated template as you're working through, you're processing and checking to see. You could find that checklist, you could take my lesson plan, and then you could critique it. And that's how it's intended to be used. The other part of it is the implementation of the lesson. And we really found that many of our programs for micro-teaching, for observation, lead instructors going in and looking at student programs, are actually using a variety of observation tools. So we were trying to capture some of those tools and streamline them into something that more programs could use consistently. No requirement to do so. It's just that here is something, if you were thinking, oh, I need an observation tool. I was reading some site visitor reports to get ready for the team leader meeting yesterday. One of the recommendations was develop an observation tool. This year, I'm telling you, don't develop it, go steal it. You work too hard to recreate what might be available. And your first stop should always be your team leader. Is there anything in STARTALK that could help me do this? Because we don't want you spending your hard-earned time creating things that already exist. You know it's so much easier to improve a product than it is to start from scratch. So now we're going to get back to a little audience participation because he said the next question is the most important question. I don't know how many of you have engaged in this activity, but I'm going to tell you that I've used this as an icebreaker for new teacher orientations for many years. So if you're looking for an icebreaker as your programs come together, this could be one that will work for you. We're going to try it out on you. Here is what Parker Palmer challenges you to answer. Still have those Post-it notes and pens. When I am teaching at my best, and if there are a few of you saying, well, I don't teach, well, you're a leader, so you just substitute when I am leading most effectively, I am like, now this is a simile. This would be hard in many audiences for me to put up this word, concrete noun, but everybody in this room loves grammar, and you all know what a noun is. So it's a very simple one word, maybe two. When I am teaching at my best, I am like a mouse. Now write down what your word is. Don't talk. Yeah, no talking. You must write an answer down. When I am teaching at my best, I am like a. When I am leading most effectively, I am like a. Anne, I am like a mouse. Parker Palmer said, I am like a shepherd dog. What is your answer? Now, without talking, just look over and see if your partner wrote anything down. And if not, wait patiently. Because they are the disruptive student in this audience. Okay, now, share. What are you like? Talk about it at your table before I go on. Okay. If you all could listen again, I'm going to give you a chance to talk in a minute again. So he explains this analogy. He talks about him being a sheepdog. When I answered the question for myself, I said I was like a lighthouse. I'm not sure why I said lighthouse, except I do think that particular summer we'd been on the East Coast touring lighthouses. But I did go with the first thing that popped into my brain, only to find out after I understood this activity better, I didn't like my answer anymore at all. And that is why I had you talk about your answers before I explained what those answers meant. And what he's basically saying is that within your answer, and in a minute I'm going to ask you to turn and talk this aspect over with your table companion also, within your answer there is both light and shadow. And you might just want to jot those two words down, light and shadow. And it took me a long time when I was using this with teachers to remember to say light and shadow and not good and bad or positive and negative. And I came to realize that it's critically important to say light and shadow. In the light part of the lighthouse, no pun intended, you're saying that perhaps, look where I am today, perhaps my strength, the positive aspects of being a lighthouse are that I want to guide you. I want to help you. I want to keep you safe. I don't want you crashing and burning on the rocks. So that's my mission. It's to protect you in some way. I am the center of your universe. I just love that concept. I know you all rejected it, but I see that there is some of that in my lighthouse. So part of that means I might enjoy, why am I standing here, being a sage on the stage. I really don't like it, but maybe I do in some hidden way. But in my answer, there is also a shadow. And that could be that I like being the sage on the stage. And it's a reminder to me that when I'm doing training and when I'm working with my students, to step back and be a guide. Because we can't get rid of our shadows. All we can do is manage our shadows. There's no getting rid of it. It's part of who we are. So we should accentuate the light and manage the shadow. Now, you may not change your answer. You're stuck with it, just like I'm stuck with being a lighthouse. But I want to give you 2 minutes to talk over your light and shadows before we wrap up. Sorry to stop the conversation. These conversations are best continued later with tea, coffee, wine, whatever your preferred beverage is. The next time you have a really frustrating colleague that you're working with, try figuring out who they are. Just step back and try, because it may give you some insights into why all of the things you've been working with that person on are not really working. So we do have new products designed to help our teachers also, to grow teachers into this community. One of our key challenges within STARTALK. Keen has developed a master's program in Hindi and Urdu, still in that final approval stage, but it will be a 30-hour credit program on-site and online with practicum, so that when they finish that program, they will be eligible for that New Jersey Certificate of Eligibility. So in that Hindi Urdu community, that is a source that you can share with them. Many of you in this room know that we've tried to crack this credentialing issue. I have to say that Hadi Classroad's title of this makes me laugh almost every time I look at the product. Language Credentialing Made Easy. There is nothing that in that title that works. It's never going to be easy. But they have created a fabulous tool to make it easier. I'll give you that. So state by state, you can now go online and click. You can get all of the peculiarities of that state, what types of certifications are possible, what pathways are available, what coursework is required, where you can get transcripts evaluated so that they can see it. You can go in and establish your own personal profile so that if you have options, you can compare certification in Illinois to certification in California. And if you have flexibility, you could decide which state you want to live in. By the way, I did look at Indiana, and I hate to get political, but it's the state that just stripped the superintendent of education of all power since she is a Democrat. And we have a Republican, and they couldn't get rid of her because she's elected by the state. What the legislator did was stripped her of all power. So now she will be paid for doing nothing, because that was preferable to having a Democratic superintendent of education. So you might click on Indiana and look, but I'm not advising you to move there to get certified right now, for other reasons also. why do I teach? So when Betsy said, by the way, Laura, you'd be the perfect person to get up here and do this, I said, okay, well, there's only one reason. I can put my grandson in the picture. Isn't he adorable? Aww. Good reaction. Good reaction. So he is supposed to join me here tomorrow night. We're supposed to go to the mountains. They're supposed to have 12 inches of snow. But, oh, well, that's another story. We teach because we care. We are passionate about this mission that we're on. We firmly believe that our learners need to have access to the world, that our teachers must be capable of bringing this world to our students in meaningful ways. We are not opposed to Common Core. One of the key statements in Common Core under college and career readiness is that they come to understand other perspectives and cultures. They wanted to put the word vicariously in that statement when it was written. People fought tooth and nail to keep vicariously out, meaning the only way you can really understand is to speak the language. So we really are in sync with a major policy right now. It is the ACTFL statement on communication, knowing how, when, and why to say what to whom. We believe deeply in these things. We know that summer programs alone will not keep them engaged in talking. So STARTALK is exploring an initiative that would allow students to, in summer trips, connect with important places in the DC area for field trips that will expose them to the world through the business community. So if you are planning that, you should talk with your team leader. And also trying to explore work-study options for high school students that match our priorities. So hopefully you have identified a tool that you want to explore further. I want to end by going to a book called The Art of Possibility. I don't know if you read this. This is by Sanders and Sanders, another read that I would recommend. But what I like about it is that it's a constant reminder to me that when we're engaged with our learners and we're engaged with our teachers, they are doing the best they can do with what they know at that time, meaning that everything is possible. And so that we should always approach every situation giving our learners, giving our teachers that A that they deserve, giving ourselves the A that we deserve. You are your worst critics, but yet you are working as many hours as you possibly can to do everything that's possible. And that's what they're basically saying is never beat up on anyone or yourselves. We have this opportunity to truly make a difference by living in the realm of what is possible and just keeping ourselves from saying, I can't do that because. I can't do that because. When you hear that coming out, step back and say, wait a minute, I'm an educator. I want an A. We all want A's. In order to get an A, you just have to keep believing in what is possible. You have to keep that frame of mind. So as you go out into the conference, Betsy already alluded to the schedule. What I'd like you to do is very quickly pull your program guide and turn to page 58 and 59. Because I have talked at you very quickly. But on, I believe it's 58 and 59, where you start to see the list of products that I have been describing. So if you need to sit and quietly go back and get the titles, oh, I'm sorry, 59 and 60. Dwart sat in the front to heckle me. He told me that earlier to keep me honest. Thank you. But that will give you so that you can go back and reference what you heard me say, see if it looks like something you want to explore. Everything I mentioned, with the exception of Greg Duncan's product, which was already introduced to you, is featured here at the session by the people who conceived of these products. So an excellent opportunity to learn more about them, ask them questions directly. And as you go through the conference, I just wanted to remind you, we know because you believe in the art of possibility, that you do not mind starting your day at 7 in the morning and ending at 7:30 at night. This is a normal work day for all of you, correct? So we have our workshops coming up. We have team leader meetings. We will allow you to take a longer lunch than usual, at which you will work with your colleagues the entire time. Sessions followed by an afternoon plenary, and then please come and celebrate Catherine's retirement with all of us, and pretty much a repeat tomorrow. But let me close with this image. I love this image. It is motivational to me when I see it. I think of a growth mindset. I think that we can do this. You are going to hear that we are changing disagree to not yet on a checklist. Your team leaders will tell you that because we weren't thinking in the right way. We want to think about what is possible and recognize that we are all on a journey. We're all on a path at different points, and we want to support each other doing that. I think if Daniel Pink were in this room with us right now, the author of Drive, he would recognize the tremendous motivation in this room. He would know that we've got it. The three tenets of motivation. We have a purpose. It's strong. It's deep within all of us. I can't wait to hear who you are as teachers. We have autonomy. Even though STARTALK gives you parameters, you're still in charge of what you do and how you choose to implement it. And as Betsy said, we are here to support you. And above all, we want to master this. But I told myself that I would teach until I got it right. I would stay in the classroom until I had the year where I mastered it. I am no longer in the classroom, and I can honestly tell you that mastery is elusive. There's always something around the corner. So I wish you a fabulous summer. We want to give you all the help we can. Thank you for being such an attentive audience. But before you leave, you have homework. Before you get up and walk out of the room, would you please look at those Post-it notes? You set your own learning goal. Turn to your partner and tell them one session or workshop you plan to attend that will help you address your personal goal. Thank you very much for your attention.